And then we have Louis Fleury. I forget what his nickname was. Jean-Louis. That's it. And then, of course, we had I remember one time my dad walking to Spy Hill to get medicine for some of the kids that were sick here, or probably some of us. And Dad walked in the wintertime to Spy Hill to get medicine for us. And that was the only means of travel then, because there was no road to Spy Hill, and that's where the closest doctor was. And he'd come with a snowplane and visit the people that were sick in the area. We didn't have to send our kids to Brandon or Winnipeg to have their tonsils out in those days. They took them right out in the kitchen table in the kitchen. I remember my sister Rosalie, Elmer, and I think Maria was there too, Uncle George's oldest daughter. And they were on the kitchen table, and that's where the operation was done. He traveled out in this area quite a lot. Then there was Mrs. Vermette. Lovely, I don't remember what her first name was. Zilda, that's it. And then, of course, we mustn't forget Joe Venn. He sure would have been glad to have been here today. It's something that he looked forward to at all times. And I guess that's about all the people I can actually remember growing up here. I do know that there was a lot of square dancing going on. And the biggest fear in this community was prairie fires. I remember a prairie fire going through here, and we'd see trees stumps burning in the night, and they look quite nice actually, us kids, but I guess they weren't so nice when they were fighting them. I'd like to close with a story that I heard, that this guy was taking 3 fishermen up north to fish, and they were flying fairly high, and they were getting close to their destination. The motor conked out, and the pilot, he says to the guys in the back, he says, "Can any of you guys pray?" And one fellow says, "No," he says, I've never prayed. And he turns over to the other fellow, he says, "Well, have you prayed?" He says, "No." He says, "I've never prayed either." He says, "I wouldn't even know how to start." And the third fellow says, "Well," he says, "I don't pray either. But you know," he says, "I live right beside the Catholic Church." He says, "And I hear them praying all the time." And the pilot says, "Well," he says, "I think you're our best bet." He says, "Prayer is the only thing that's going to save us." So anyway, he says, eyes down, under the B2. Under the N45. Lena just told me she used to change my pants. And she says on one occasion, she was sticking a safety pin through the diaper, and she pinned me right to the diaper. Anyway, I'd like to again congratulate the group that worked here, and it's nice to see people working together. And we don't have enough people working together anymore. It seems that everybody goes their own way, and I think community spirit is something we need. And which brings me in mind of, this is an actual true story, how people are so helpful. I was traveling home from Brandon. I have bulls in the Douglas test station, and I was bringing them home. And I was doing about 90 miles an hour on Highway 24, not to just straight north of Quadra. And this little car was ahead of me doing about 90, and I was pushing her tail, and finally going downhill, I thought, well, I'll give her a little gas here, and I went past her, and I drove past, but I was doing 110. And anyway, just as I got ahead of her, I blew a front tire on my truck with a load of bulls in the trailer behind, and that's quite a sensation. It's you don't know what you're doing for a while. Anyway, I looked at the ditch, and I was heading for it, and I looked at the hydro pole, and I said, I gotta miss that, and there was an approach coming as well. So anyway, I hit her between the hydro pole and the approach, and went through the farmer's field, in through his fence, and there I stopped. The little old lady, she makes a quick wheelie in the center of the road, and comes rushing back and coming over to me, and she says, are you hurt? She was quite concerned and really helpful. She said, anything I can do? I said, no. I says, I'm fine, thanks. He says, I'm doing quite fine. And she said, oh, she said, I thought you were going to roll that truck. I said, I thought I was too. But I said, the Lord was with me. Oh, she said, you better ride with me because you're a dangerous driver. You're going to kill him. With that, thank you.
Thanks, George. I'd like to now call up Sam Brown, Mayor of Binscarth.
Good afternoon. I guess I think they should pull that pin out of George now. He's been crying ever since. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, special guests. Yeah. I'm honored to bring greetings on behalf of the village of Binscarth. I hope everybody has enjoyed the last couple of days. There was certainly a good number of activities planned that the whole family could participate in, any age group. It was very interesting. And that bannock, boy, that's good stuff. That, ain't it though? Hey, great, ain't it? I guess the last couple of days there are people like myself, I guess, that you get to participate in another culture and their traditions, and then I guess on the other hand, the Métis people, they get to remember the days gone by, reminisce and tell stories. They've likely seen people that they haven't seen for years, heard a lot of stories from their elders, a lot of crap like George was telling us here, and it's all very interesting. I think it's very important that we protect our culture and our traditions. I also feel it's very important that we not let our cultures interfere with our daily activities and our decision making. I think we should be all working together, and I think this weekends like this, where you have different cultures, everybody all mixed together, I think it proves that it can be done, and we should strive towards that. It's be a good feeling to see everybody working together. Got something else here. Yeah. The Métis locals are very active in our community. They, besides sponsoring scholarships for their young people, they also help out their people in need. And they've also contributed a lot of money to our local programs that likely would never have happened if we didn't have their input, along with a lot of other groups. And it there again shows that people can work together. I wish maybe someone on the national side could see how these smaller communities get along and work together. It may be a good lesson for them. And upon closing, I would like to just commend the group that put this on, Annette and her people. It was a lot of work, and everything seems to run along fairly smooth, and I think they can take pride in their accomplishments. It was a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. just another reminder, they still have sashes and other artifacts for sale in the tent. I'm sure they'll be ready to pack them up very shortly, so for those that want to make some purchases, those do so very shortly. Help me bring up Jim Tanner, who's the chief of the Gambler Band. Jim Tanner, are you here? There he is.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to be standing here, and it's a great pleasure to be able to bring your greetings from the Gamblers Indian Band. And I would like to say it was a great morning, or at noon I should say, with Archbishop Exner. And it is something that we don't see very often. And I think even just looking at noon when Mass was on, when all cultures were together here today, would give a good example of how people can work. And I really admire the people that put this up, because about 3-4 months ago, when I heard this, I thought it was far, far away. And I remember Kate Fleury saying, we're going to try. And it was a surprise for me when about a week ago or so, when they said they had everything pretty well on the go. So then at the time, of course, being asked for donations or whatever from anybody else, and so was everybody else asked, I guess. We couldn't dare back off, because 3-4 months before that, I had said maybe. And a maybe sometimes goes a long ways when you see people doing and gathering and trying to get something off the ground. And I would like to congratulate the elders that really brought this to a head. And Mr. Bushy and his wife, George Bushy and them, and being married for 57 years and right on these grounds, I think it's something that'll never be forgotten. And I have most of my relations up in the graveyard, like John Tanner, my grandmas and uncles and so, and therefore I take great pride to be able to tell you that we are all together, and if we work together, I think this world will be a better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I'd like to now call up Lynn Whitten with the Brandon University. Can you come up, please?
Sainte-Madeleine began for me about 2 years ago in the spring, when I first visited Joe Venn at Birtle, and then followed up later on with some visits in Brandon Hospital. And those were truly memorable visits. I didn't forget, and it resulted in our filming of the event this weekend. And that is thanks largely to Brandon University, and also to the Saskatchewan music educators, who are most concerned and interested that the Métis heritage, musical heritage, be preserved, and not only the traditional songs, but a lot of the new things that are going on as well. So we've had a wonderful weekend here. I've really enjoyed meeting so many people and had a good time, and I have to congratulate the organizers of this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce John Lavelli, who's the Vice President of the Manitoba Métis Federation and represents the Southwest region. John?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I guess it was about 50 years ago that the people of Sainte-Madeleine were told that they couldn't live here anymore. And with that message that they got from the government at the time, they started to disperse and move out to communities such as Camberville and Duck Bay and St. Laurent and St. Ambrose and so on. And they moved out to different areas of the country. But I guess the people never did forget when they used to live here. They never did forget Sainte-Madeleine. And I first heard about Sainte-Madeleine maybe about 5 or 6 years ago when there was an ad, not an ad, but there was it was in a newspaper, in the Winnipeg Tribune, I believe it was, or the Winnipeg Free Press. And my mother showed me the picture of a group of people in front of the church at Sainte-Madeleine. And there was a bunch of kids sitting amongst the people there. And my mother pointed to me, and she said, "This is me." You know, she was only about 4 years old, I believe, at the time, 4 or 5 years old. And, you know, from then on, she's told me stories about Sainte-Madeleine. And I really became probably attached to Sainte-Madeleine just as much as the people were at the time when they were living here. And, you know, I guess we will never forget Sainte-Madeleine. And we've come back here today, this weekend, to commemorate the town of Sainte-Madeleine that was here, that flourished here at one time. We came back here. We unveiled a plaque this morning in the cemetery. That plaque would serve as a symbol to the people that once lived here, to the community that was once alive here. And we, again, came back to remember Sainte-Madeleine and the people that once lived here. The elders were back here again, and this is probably one of the, since the people left Sainte-Madeleine, this is probably the first time that there's been so many people in this area. And it shows that people are upholding their culture. They remember the town of Sainte-Madeleine. And I hope that in the years to come that we are able to continue with these celebrations. And it's through the efforts of the Binscard Local and the Gambler Indian Reserve and the other organizations that donated so graciously to hold these days. And I would like personally to thank these people for putting on Sainte-Madeleine Days. Thank you.
Thanks, John. We have another speaker coming up. After this speaker, we have 2 more speakers, so bear with us. It's not too much longer. A gentleman that doesn't need too much of an introduction. I think that played a good role in this area of making the proper contacts, helping open doors when necessary. We have our president of the Manitoba Métis Federation, Yvonne Dumont.
Thank you, Ed. I want to thank, first of all, the Binscard Métis Local for inviting me to be here this weekend and to unveil a historical plaque in a cemetery where your roots are deeply planted. There are many people who have asked me about the significance of the blue and white Métis flag up there with the infinity sign on it. That flag was the first flag adopted by the Métis Nation in the early 1800s. I believe it was in 1816. And the symbol on it is the symbol for infinity. And so that's what that's all about. And so if you've been told, or if you've heard that the Métis as a people, or the Métis as a nation, never existed in this country, that flag tells us different. The Métis identified as a nation. They identified as a people as far back here in Western Canada as 1816, and it was before even this part of Canada was part of Canada. So they were here. They had their languages. They had their cultures. They had their identity as Métis people, and so it's there. And it's odd or kind of ironic, I suppose, when you look back in history and you read about what one of the former prime ministers said about the Métis people back in 1870. Prime Minister John A. Macdonald said that don't worry about these promises that we're making to the Métis in these negotiations, because within 10 years there'll be no such thing as Métis people in Canada. Look around here today. Back to Sainte-Madeleine, 1990. Back to Batoche, coming back next weekend in Batoche, Saskatchewan. Hundreds and thousands of Métis getting together, celebrating their language, their culture, their heritage. Saint Laurent Métis Days coming up on the weekend following in my home community. Again, hundreds of Métis people coming back to their roots to celebrate their heritage and their history, their culture and their languages. The Métis are alive and well to this day. And during the negotiations that took place, before Manitoba became part of Canada, the government of Canada promised that there would be land set aside for the Métis who lived here at that time. 200,000 acres. And it was promised at that time that 1.4 million acres would be set aside for the children of the Métis who lived here at that time. That land got into the hands of the Métis people. And instead of doing that, they did the complete opposite. They did everything they could to circumvent the Manitoba Act and the agreements that were agreed to. And in the end, less than 15% of the land that was supposed to be in the hands of Métis ended up in the hands of the Métis people. Because they thought that if they took away the land, and if they forced the Métis to disperse across Western Canada, that they would disappear. Over 100 years later, we're becoming as strong as ever, and maybe even stronger than we've ever been. And when the Métis of Sainte-Madeleine lost their land and were forced to move from this area for whatever reason, I'm sure that many people believed that the community would die and it would be forgotten. And it was just about forgotten. A few years ago when I met Joe Venn and Dave Janai and Harry Pelche, Louis Pelche, and Agnes Boucher, and they told us about the stories of Sainte-Madeleine and about their memories, I thought that it was something that should be preserved in history for the benefit of our children so that they know where their roots are. And so we got together with Ken Zelig and we asked those elders to participate, to be willing to be interviewed, to preserve that history that's so precious to us. And I must say that the elders who consented to doing the interviews deserve a lot of credit for what's happening here today. It's not easy for them to get up in public in front of a tape recorder and tell us about their lives and tell us about their memories, the happy ones and the sad ones. To tell it to us so that it can be preserved for our benefit. Had it not been for the history of Sainte-Madeleine that only existed until a few years ago in the hearts and minds of these elders, back to Sainte-Madeleine 1990, never would have happened. I believe that they made a significant contribution to the Métis people by doing that. I'm sure that it was hard on them sometimes to think of those memories and to tell them to us, because not all of them were happy ones. But they did it, and I think that the Métis people, as a nation and as a people, will continue to benefit from that for many years to come. Many people have told us in the past, and I've heard it, and I'm sure you've heard it. The Métis were Heinz 57. They were part French and part Indian, or part English and part Indian. And that's all there was to it. They were just half-breeds, part this and part that. That flag signifies to us that the Métis identified as a people long before Canada ever extended its boundaries westward. And they continue to do that. So if you're ever told that there is no such thing as a Métis people, that there is no such thing as a Métis culture, that there's no such thing as a language common to the Métis people, think about Sainte-Madeleine, 1990. Back to Sainte-Madeleine, 1990. And at the roots that are planted in a cemetery. And don't let anybody tell you that there's no such thing as a Métis nation, as a Métis people. And maybe there are some people who believe that our history and our heritage and our culture is not important to us. Sainte-Madeleine, 1990, changed that. And I believe that we owe that to the elders who participated in the interviews that ended up being recorded in a book called Sainte-Madeleine, a Community Without a Town. I was very moved this morning by the service that took place here. And Archbishop Exner's very eloquent talk to us. I think there were a lot of other people were moved as people proceeded up the aisle to take communion. Proud of their of being here in Sainte-Madeleine, 1990. And I must say, as president of the Manitoba Métis Federation today, I'm very proud of those elders. I'm very proud of the Binscarth local. I believe that you've made a contribution here today, not just to the people of Binscarth and to the people of Sainte-Madeleine, but you've made a significant contribution in the history of the Métis as a nation and as a people. I believe that you've probably made more of a contribution in the last 3 days than many years of negotiations with government. And I'm happy to see the mayor of Binscarth is with us. And other people who perhaps don't have roots here. Other people who live in the community who were interested in coming down here to listen to us. I'm glad that Mr. Durkach was able to come down here. As a politician, I'm sure he has a very busy schedule, but the fact that he takes time to come here and to be with us, I think shows that he has an interest, that he's interested in what we have to say, that he's interested in your contribution, and I think that those kinds of actions by public officials need to be recognized by ourselves as well. Sainte-Madeleine, back to Sainte-Madeleine, 1990, might someday become an annual event, and I hope that it does, because as the history that has been preserved to this date by the elders has to continue to be preserved by the young people who I'm sure have learned a lot in these last few days. So thank you very much to the elders, to Archbishop Exner, to to the Métis local who have made all of this possible, and I hope that you keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yvonne. Just to add to that flag, that was a common thing that the Métis Nation did every time they moved from camp to camp, or any time that the Métis Nation ever gathered to have a meeting and any special events, they traditionally flew that flag. At this point in time, I would like to call up an elder from the Binscarth local, Agnes Boucher.
I would like to thank the ones that have asked me to participate in the service. I was quite honored. And also, I was pleased to meet our Excellency, Archbishop Exner. I would like to thank my family that has come from Brandon, Gladstone, and Winnipeg, and those that in my surrounding districts that live amongst me. And I was really glad to have them all with me for this day, as this day has been a very memorable day for me, and I would thank the ones that have prepared this, because it is something that I shall never forget, since this is where I have started my married life. Thank you.
For our final speaker, we'd like to take this time and call up Annette Drylick, who's the local chairperson. Give closing remarks.
Okay, I've heard a few people throughout the weekend. When we first started on Friday night, I never really introduced myself. I'm Annette Drylick, and I was at Gosselin before that, and I'm not from Sainte-Madeleine. And my parents come from Santa Clara. And I've had a lot of people also ask me why, as the chairperson of the Binscarth local, why we would push and try and attempt to get this type of thing together. And I guess that goes back to Jovan. It goes right back to Jovan. My dad was Métis, and he lost his father when he was born. When Dad was born, his dad died in the same bedroom, and because I guess he lost his dad, who was Métis, he always tried to instill in us a respect and an awareness of the fact that we are Métis. And so when he was gone, I tried to keep that in myself, that I knew I was Métis. And then AG or George Fleury, he first got me involved with the MMF. Through my involvement with the MMF, I talked to a lot of elders. And Joe Venn was always after me when I was working for the MMF. And I remember the Tuesday before he passed away, I was on my way to Brandon. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I thought, oh, I'll stop in and see Joe on my way in. And he said to me, Annette, when are you going to get here? He says, I want to say some things on tape, he said, and I want to talk to you. He said, I'd like to get something going in Sainte-Madeleine. We've got to do that. We've got to do that. And I was busy. You know how you get busy. And I said, yeah, Joe. Okay, we'll do that. And I had it in the back of my head that I was going to do that. And I knew that he was just a most excellent person to talk to about getting something started with Sainte-Madeleine. But the next week he was gone. And I miss him just as well as everybody else does. And I guess I carry his words to me. And he got up from his chair, and he had his cane at that time, and he walked me to the door and kind of shook his cane at me, and he said, now you remember, you come back, because we got to do something with Sainte-Madeleine. And I said, okay, Joe, I'll be back. And I never made it. But it was so important to him, and it was very important to the elders. And so we got together, and I guess that's the real push was for the elders that I became involved with. Like, even if I'm not from Sainte-Madeleine, your memories and your love and your sharing and your caring for the community, for your families, means so very much. And I'd just like to thank all of the people. Like yesterday, I missed some people, thanking them. Like all of the people from the booths, you know, we were scared. How are we going to feed all these people? And like Harvey and Irene and Debbie and Elmer and Vince Garth Highway Service, the One Stop Bannock Shop, they said, well, we'll make a booth. We'll help. So everybody helped, and Rennie and Buck and Elmer for putting up the cairn, and like all the little things that needed to be done that got done. And you know, like no one thinks that they did it because they wanted to. They didn't do it because they were going to get paid or they were going to get a pat on the back or get talked about. They just wanted to let it get started. And I think it's very important for the Binscarth community to know that the Métis people that are in the Binscarth Métis Association and the Valley View and the Pelly Trail and the other associations around here are vital members of your community. And too often, we're not recognized. And I've been involved with a variety of community groups, and through my involvement with being chairperson of the Binscarth Métis Association, I do see a lot of prejudice because of the group I represent. And I'd like to leave you with this idea that we are vital members of the community, and we work together just as well as any other community, and you can see it and enjoy it today. And just to have more respect for us, because we deserve it. And I'd like to leave you with this one word. We'll remember Sainte-Madeleine. Gish Gishen. Gish Gishen, Sainte-Madeleine.
Thank you, Annette. It's very moving. Shows that the Métis spirit is still alive and well with us. I guess there is one more final event that's taken place, and it'll be the feasting, I guess, will take place. And I'm told, don't worry or don't panic, there's lots of bannock. So let's give a round of applause, a final round of applause for all the speakers that were here. And I think for everybody, they deserve an applause for a successful event at Sainte-Madeleine. Thank you.
You're dead. Okay. Yeah. And I'm not really on, but you're talking to me anyways. I'll get your name after. I'll write it down. But it's Arthur.
Right.
Go by Arthur. Okay, Arthur. Start with your father coming.
Well, my father came from France in 1893, and on arrival, they traveled as far west as the CPR would take them. That was Saltcoats, Saskatchewan. Spent a few winters there, but under very much duress. Some of they built sod shacks the first winter they arrived, and that was quite a step from leaving France, you know, walking into sod buildings. They raised rabbits in one and lived in the other over the winter months, and a lot of hardship experience. Then they moved to Wapella, where my grandfather was a very well-educated man, served as a secretary of the municipality. And when it was made known that the CNR main line would come through Saint-Lazare, where several French, Canadian, and Métis people lived, they decided to move in to Saint-Lazare, at which time our family was very much associated with the Métis people, Bellamers, Haydens, Flurries, very much very many people who also related to the Métis who were Sainte-Madeleine residents. And at that time, my grandmother was quite used to hardships, and she grew some large gardens, and through that factor they supplied the Duca boys who were building the railroad with milk and vegetables, and that was the start of our relatives in St. Lazare. Then I guess you might say that St. Lazare was founded by an Oblat mission, who, missionary, Father de Corby, and he came in earlier than our relatives, I think in 1884, somewhere thereabouts. And Father de Corby came from St. Lazare, France, and that's how St. Lazare got its name. And then years to come, as he established missions between St. Lazare and up to Pelly, Yorkton, and then later on at Crooked Lake, Lebret. I guess the thought that came to mind, if there's a St. Lazare, we also have to have a place named for Lazare's two sisters. So came the name Sainte-Madeleine. And later on, south of here, about 15 miles, he also established a mission which was named Saint Marthe. So Saint Lazare was soon with his two sisters, Madeleine and Marthe.
Now, how did your family interact with the Métis in Sainte-Madeleine?
Well, there wasn't that much contact, except that Dad used to do a lot of hunting, you know, like prairie chicken and what have you. I think we were raised on them, and there was times that we extended our visits into Sainte-Madeleine and got to know the people, and the people of Sainte-Madeleine often came to St. Lazare, where they established a very close relation.
The 30s were a very hard time, weren't they?
Oh, it's unbelievable that the hardship and difficulty that these people went through, you know, like it was sad, you know, when they left, just thinking that after all these hardships, you know, that they should find themselves out without a home, you might say.
How were they compensated?
I don't think there was too much, things were, the PFR came about by the fact that there was, everything was in a depression. I mean, so like everybody was going through hard times, and I guess the federal government thought, well, we should turn these pastures which were unproductive, it's mostly sub-marginal land, should be turned into a community pasture for cattle grazing.
Yeah. Was your family able to help out in any way, or it seemed to me that there was something going on there, just in terms of...
Well, a lot of them moved into St. Lazare and became part of our community. Others went to Selby Town, some went to St. Clara and communities north, where there was also a Métis element in existence.
Yes, yeah. And are the families still the same names, still same people living here now? And many of them moved away, but in this area?
Yeah, well, a lot of them, like I say, went to distant pastures, you might say, you know, further away from their home village, and. But we've have a lot of Métis from in St. Lazare that were part of Sainte-Madeleine one time, and their relatives, and we found them to be very, very sympathetic and very, very hardy people. And well, let's say that we admired, you know, their courage and amongst all these hardships, because nobody can picture, you know, when you're caught during the winter months, away from any doctors, and childbirth was quite frequent. Food depended largely on the amount of game that would be available at that particular time, so the mortality was high, and like I say, nobody will ever realize the hardship that these people went through.
Yeah, yeah. It's perfect, thanks.
Okay, right there.
So probably, could you just tell one of the stories that your mother used to tell, even if...
Yeah, well, she told me about when they used to live in Sainte-Madeleine, you know, some of the things
just,
that...
you know, the reminiscences, and Jeremy would be interested.
Okay, when my mère used to live in Sainte-Madeleine, in this town here, around here, there used to be a town here, and she used to live here, and she told me that she lived here with her father brothers and sisters. And they used to have a little house, just a little shack, I suppose it was, made out of logs and tar paper and whatever they could find to make their house with. And she told me that they had a garden. They had a little garden in the back, and they used to grow vegetables to eat. Probably not enough to keep them through the winter, but just enough to feed for themselves in the summertime and in the fall, I guess, and to can a few things, I suppose. Not much, but they depended on the animals of the area, the wild meat and so on, deer and rabbits and stuff like that. They used to eat and kill and eat. And they used to do some work for nearby farmers, or else they did a lot of trapping. There was a slough back there, Mom was telling me, like a sort of a marsh area. And her father, Grandpa Bellimer, used to leave early in the morning and go out there and set traps for muskrat. Yeah. To catch muskrat. And the muskrat they used to catch, they skin them and sell the pelt and so on, dry it out and sell the pelt. But the meat, they wouldn't throw the meat away. They would eat the muskrat. You've eaten muskrat. I've made you taste muskrat. And they still we still eat the muskrat. It's a nice, good animal. It lives in water. There's nothing bad about it. And he's tasted muskrat and so on. And they used to hunt, like I said, deer and ducks and so on. And there's an old lady, I suppose, that also lived here. I forget what her name was. Mom told me about her, but she used to be a midwife. She used to deliver all the babies around here, and she was. Mom used to know her very well. Like she used to, like the gentleman said, that every time they'd hear this lady's name, means that there was a baby born somewhere. So, but. I guess Mom told me about Sainte-Madeleine about 5 or 6 years ago. I didn't know anything about. I didn't even know she had lived in this area before, And until about 5 or 6 years ago, as I said, that she saw the piece in the newspaper about Sainte-Madeleine, and there was a book being written about it and so on. Ken and Victoria Zelig were writing the book along with the elders, interviewing the elders of the area, and Joe Venn and so on. And that's when she told me, she says, I'm from Sainte-Madeleine. Did you know that? I said, no. Where's Sainte-Madeleine? Like, I didn't even know. I never even heard about it.
Yeah.
And I guess that's part of the history that was lost maybe at one, for a period of time. I didn't know anything about it. And I knew my uncles I knew that one of my uncles lived in this area in Russell. But nothing was ever said about Sainte-Madeleine.
Yeah.
Nothing. And she told me about this, and I guess she kept on talking about it, telling me different things, little things here and there, how they used to live. Everybody used to have cows, and not everybody had cows, but people had cows and horses and chickens and so on and so forth. They made a good living. They were happy. She told me they were happy, and they got together. A lot of times, every Sunday they went to church. They had the church built here out of logs and so on. And they used to get together.
The barbecue is on. The seniors pay $3, and
in the evening, they used to get together in the evening or on Saturdays or on the weekends and go from house.
12 and under are free. But I would just like to ask you if we could.
Okay, sorry.
What impact do you think this commemoration days really has on people?
I think the impact, personally, I think it brings back, it makes the culture alive, is what it does. It brings it back, to life and so on. Like I said, like I had previously said, that there hasn't been a number of people here for so long. This is the first time in 50 years probably that there's been such an amount of people here like this, and it's certainly nice to see the Métis culture come alive, come together, people coming together, and celebrating, and having people that they hadn't seen each other for 40, 50 years. I was amazed with the memory that these elders have. Some of them left when they were 6, and some of them left when they were 5. My mother was 10 years old when she left, and yet she was going around here yesterday, just going up to someone, and, you know, you're so and so, and I remember you, and so on. You know, they were just little kids when they left here. It's about his age, really. You know, and 50 years ago, you know, that's fantastic. You know, and the community was so, you know, everybody got along then. Everybody was just flourished, really. You know, it was. I would have loved to have lived back then. You know, I think so. Yeah. You know, I think about it a lot, and my mother tells me about it, and the elders, ever since I've been involved with the Métis Federation in the Southwest region, they tell me a lot about Sainte-Madeleine as well. You know, and Joe Venn especially, you know, he told me stories, and I read the book, Community Without a Name, and so, Town, and so on. So it's been, you know, really, really nice.
Yeah, I could, you know, it was moving to see
It's very, very moving sometimes, you know.
see them greeting each other.
That's right, you know.
I could just tell.
It's just fun, you know.
Yeah, it is.
I can't describe it really, you know.
Yeah.
The feeling that you get, and of course, myself being Métis and so on,
Yeah.
it has a special,
Exactly.
you know, it's very special to me.
Yeah.
Nice. Been very worthwhile 3 days, you know. I would love to do it again.
Oh.
Hopefully next year.
Lynette's dead body.
Yeah, probably.
See you, John.
Probably, but you know, it would be nice to get it going.
Yeah, it would.
Every year, like, you know, have it an annual event. It would be just fantastic because, you know, the elders, they're 70s, 80s, and so on. You know, they're not going to be around too much longer, and why not do this for them now? You know?
Yeah, just miss Joe Venn. It really is too bad.
Yeah, Joe Venn passed away quickly, and so on. So it's too bad that he.
That's good, John. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's good. We're done. But
Okay, Mr. Bell, you're a real old expert on square dancing,
Yeah.
are you? Tell us when you first started square dancing.
When I first started square dancing, I was about maybe 12 years old or something like that. I started to go to the dances, and I learned from the people, and I was kind of shy to get going, and then I listened some of those old callers, you know, and then days we used to drive or walk to a dance. Twice a week we went to the dance, you know, walk, you know, come home in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, you know. House to house we used to go twice a week. You know, a bunch of us, either that or would get into, in the winter time, maybe a bunch of us, you know, get on here, go to the next house, and, you know, square dancing.
So now you just need a fiddle and a guitar and you gotta dance.
Yeah, that's all.
How many people?
Oh, sometimes it might be 25 or 30 of us in there. It didn't matter, you know. There's quite a few. Some places only maybe 10 or 15, and then we'll call 8. Takes 8 people to make a square dance.
So, did you meet when you were 12 years old? The reason you go to those things was to meet women, or?
No, we just, you know, them days we didn't run around too much, eh? You know, but we seen the girls all right. Most of the time, them old ladies, them days, they watched their girls, you know. You couldn't just go out with them, you know. You have to go and see them at the house, and that's it. Right.
So square dancing was a real entertainment?
Oh, yes, yeah. Everybody danced, you know. You know, a big bunch there, we didn't have much room to let a lot of houses, you know. Maybe a house would say 16 by 20 a house. Well, there's only one square dance. There's only 8 people can dance at a time, eh? So, and there could be 8 more waiting here. That bunch finished, and yet a bunch will jump in. That's going on all night. All night.
Where did you put the furniture?
There's hardly any furniture. Most time we didn't have hardly any chairs. Them days benches. We had bench. Put them in a corner. Stove in one corner. Only one cupboard, that's all. We didn't have all these benches, dishes, and those cupboards them days, no.
So there was room enough to dance?
Oh, yeah, there was lots of room to dance in.
So, do you remember, were there lots of people who could play the fiddle?
Oh, yes, there was a lot of players in these. But everybody had a fiddle playing. Yeah. Now our way there at home, by God, and one family there, where one of them could play, you know. And they used to have a dance there every week. Like my wife's dad there, you know. Every week they had a dance there.
So is that how you met your wife?
Yeah, that's how I come to meet her.
You met her at a square dance?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, right.
So, so was your wife a real good square dancer?
Oh, yes. Yeah, he's good. Also, he can call, right? He can call. This spring he went to Lazard to train the kids. Yeah, he's done pretty good too. Train.
So, what's this calling? Tell me about calling.
Calling, well, just depends what tune you're playing, eh? You could say, when you're calling like that, there just depends what tune. You can say, there's two gents swing on the center with the right, you're rolling around with the left, two gents swing on the center with the right, left hand turn, left partner, two gents swing on the center with the right, and the swing on your own, you see. That's the way it goes. Over the left from the corners, all watch you step. You don't get left to the right foot down, the left foot up, and all the way around, break, and you all swing out your partners, all. And that's the way when you got, just keep it up, but you know, this is the way it goes.
So the calling, that tells people how to dance.
Yeah, yeah. Tell them how to dance, yeah.
So every song has a different call.
Yeah, there's all different calls, eh? Calling in there, there'll be people again going, and you say, well, first couple up to the right, right, left back. Two ladies change across, change them back, and half promenade the last couple, over the left from the corners, all again, all the way around. And that's the way it goes in the old late couple. You know?
So, did you ever have to teach somebody to dance that just couldn't get the
Oh,
left
yeah,
or the
lots
right?
of them. Oh, yes. We teach a lot of them, yeah. You show them how, eh? You get in there and show them. Well, you start a square dance right now, I don't know how many people in here. Lots of them, they want to dance and they don't know how to dance, and they get lost, eh? Even if you tell them what to do, they get lost. Yeah, they got to see how it's done, eh?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a bit of crashing back and forth.
Yeah.
So when you start off just bumping into each other,
Yeah.
that's pretty natural.
Yeah,
is it?
yeah, right, yeah.
So what made you decide to teach kids how to square dance?
Well, they asked me in town one time I'd teach them, about 4 or 5 years ago. And this year again, they're asking me, we're going to start this winter, again, teach school in Lazar. Like at night we go in there, spend maybe an hour, you know, just a few square dances, and then maybe twice a week or something like that, you know. Show them different call, different tune, what tune it is, and all that, and you know.
What kind of footwork did the Métis use?
Eh?
Did they use a jigging step?
Oh yeah, some of them when they still jig a little bit, and they're all doing square dances too. Oh yes, yeah.
So they mix it up, do they?
Yeah, oh yes, yeah. Once you get to know how to dance, there's nothing to it. You don't matter what. After you get to know this, you know what it's going to call. Maybe you'll know how to do it. You know, once you learn one, then you should be able to know the other ones. It's the same thing like one fiddle. When I first started, I played the fiddle. I used to sing. Finally, I got one tune. After I got one tune, I could play the other one. You know. That's what.
Did you know any of the calls in French? Did you do any calling?
No, I never called in French. No.
Did you hear it?
No, I never heard English. No, it's always English.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I guess they do in Quebec, some of them, eh?
Well, what would you say one of your favorite dances was? Did they used to give dances, say, after they had a building or go up, or?
Well, yeah, sometime they make a new log house there for somebody to move in. Boy, everybody join in, make a dance. And then them days, we buy maybe, just depending how many people were, can of salmon. We used to buy cheap them days. Butter and bread. We had a lunch. That was a lunch.
So, you learned how to play the fiddle?
Yeah.
Did you learn how to play the guitar?
No, I never learned how to play guitar.
So you had somebody to accompany you?
Oh, yeah, well, my brother used to play
the
guitar.
So did people...
Years ago, I guess they didn't have no guitar, but just the violin in them days. Eh? But most of them, they had two violins going together, measure the heck, you know. right now, even now, you get two guys playing together makes a better music, you know.
So, when you went to these dances, like, did you have to get all dressed up? Or?
Oh yeah, you're dressed up. Yeah, most of us were all dressed up. Yeah.
And when you went to play fiddle, did they pay you?
No, that was didn't cost you nothing. Yeah, because there's a lot of fiddlers. You know, they play turnabout, they dance turnabout too. You know.
Where did you get the fiddles in those days?
I don't know where they got them from. There was fiddle when I know.
They made them sometimes.
I guess maybe they did. I don't know. There was fiddles anyway when I remember this a long time ago.
Where did you get your fiddle from?
Dad had one.
And he gave it to you?
No, he didn't give it to me. He broke it. Somebody sat on it and broke the fiddle. Dad bought another one, and then when he died, my niece took the fiddle. And she still got it out there somewhere.
So you played your dad's fiddle then?
Yeah.
Did your dad teach you how to play fiddle?
Yeah.
How did you sound when you first started?
Well, I listened to them and tune. Finally, I got one in my head. Once I played once, and then I pick up the other one. It's easy. Comes on your mind. Good.
So what's the rhythm? Like, you know, the other day I was watching them practice and they had their feet going and they
Oh yeah, well,
going, like
most time, yeah, it'll be going like this, you know. Makes you feel better, and you moving around, you know. All players most do, you know, they kick their feet like that, you know.
Did you know any women or children who played?
Oh yes. My wife's sister used to play. Yeah. And I know a young kid there like my nephew was down here the other day. His boy started when he was about 9 years old. Oh boy, Lapine. And a damn good player, Lapine there. And his boy now is, I guess he's about 15, 16 boy. He's just as good as his dad. They go all over, you know, in Winnipeg, Portage. That's where they live in Portage, eh? And Gary. Yeah.
So did you live around this area?
Yeah, in St. Lazare.
Yeah.
That's about straight across here. That's only about 15 miles.
Did you ever come out and dance in Sainte-Madeleine?
No, I didn't. I come out. I never did come out here, but they used to live down, some of them right down the river, down this creek here. I come up there one time. You know, there's a name, a guy Bushy. One time I come up there. That time he just built the house. He had no floor. We danced. Hands out. Yeah, he had no floor in it. We danced. Yeah.
So did you throw straw on the floor like they did?
No.
I'm not. Make it all shiny?
No, it was shiny because it was hard. Eh? A little dusty, but that didn't make any difference.
Joe Venn talked about playing the Jaws harp and the comb. And did you hear all those instruments?
Yeah, I heard them before, but not around here now. No.
Yeah.
I did hear them, yeah. Some people playing. Yeah.
Played all those things.
Yeah. Dad used to have one of those darn things, square things with a lot of bloody string. He used to play that. But Dad was sitting one night to a wedding there. He played 165 tunes without a stop, they say. Because stopping his feet like that, and he had an wooden floor them times, was only soft wood. Well, he made a hole in that there floor for kicking when he was playing, you know. That's what Drew Tremblay was telling me that. This is long before my time.
Yeah. Were these hymns or old songs or
dance songs?
Yeah, they played them days all night. This wedding started and you go. Some of them used to go for 2 days wedding them days, you know. 2 days on a row.
I guess everybody wanted a turn to dance.
Oh yeah.
There wasn't any room.
No.
Did you ever get together and just sing?
What's
sing
that?
songs?
Song? No. I never did sing.
Yeah.
Some of the people sing.
They'd all gather around
Oh yeah.
and sing and
Oh yeah.
drink a little and
Drink a
sing.
little. But all them days only home brew, they made, you know, there was no liquor out them days, no beer. But we had a good time. We didn't bother drinking too much. You know? Just go to the dance and dance, all right.
So tell us a bit more about this calling.
Calling.
If you were going to try and teach me how to square dance, what would you tell me? What's the most important thing to know if I want to learn how to square dance?
Well, you'd have to listen to me when I'm calling.
So I have to listen to the caller.
Yeah, listen to the caller. Okay. Let's say the first change. Okay. First couple go around the six there. Promenade on the outside six. And there's this couple here. You start here, and there's another couple here. There's four couples. Well, and you're coming around there, right and left of that couple. Right, left, back. And then two ladies change across. You change them back. And half promenade with the last couple. And then when that's finished, and over the left from the corners all again, that goes right around. And when you finish your couple, the next couple start. You go all around them couples, and then the square dance finish. You start another one. Different call.
Oh, yeah. So, if you were to play the Red River Jig, how would the call go?
There's no caller.
No caller for that?
No, there's no caller. No, you just listen to the fiddle. Whenever the small strings plays, okay, you just dance around. When it comes to the big string, that's the time you make your steps, different steps.
So you got to know your caller.
Yeah.
If there's a caller, you have to listen to that caller.
Yeah.
And if there's just music,
Yeah.
Do you want to do that?
If you had somebody to play one quadrille there, there's a lot of guys can.
Who would have one? I'll go and ask them if they do.
Oh, boy, I don't know. You better. Lots of people here. They should know someone.
No. What's a quadrille?
Quadrille. That's what it is. A dance. Quadrille is a dance.
So it's the same thing as a square dance. A quadrille.
Yeah, quadrille. Quadrille. That's what it means. Square dance.
So do you think it's good that people are learning the square dance and getting kind of
yes, that's good. Yeah, people like that thing. Some people like to go with that. Not like now, some of them, these dancers are dancing right now. They just jump around all over the place, you know. The older people don't like that. But now they come along, young people who want to start over, you know. Maybe some people don't want that, but there's lots of people who want to square dance. So what do you do? Can't please everybody, eh? Right?
Well, do you like to square dance?
No.
Would you like to jig? A little bit?
Yeah, a little bit.
Do you think it's hard to learn to jig?
Yeah.
What's tricky about it?
Tricky, I don't know. It's really tricky.
So, well, what's hard? What's hard about jigging?
Well, you gotta learn the steps more and...
Who's gonna do the where's the caller?
You want to call just first, Jane, and second.
Great, can you all sing out to partners off? Great, can you all sing out?
Okay, go ahead. All right, go ahead.
They're two of the boys from that family. Step to the other side of the school? Yeah, we'll go to the other room.
We're in the cloakroom now.
Well, I'm afraid that was before my time also.
And I was the last one born here, so long before.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think we have pictures.
I was 4 years old.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I do too. One time I only made time of 10. Well, could you just
Oh.
film?
Could I? No.
Well, he'll just film it and maybe.
People years ago, like the way they,
Oh, right.
well, the only way to get around was walking.
Everybody home. You feel like you're just reaching out your childhood kind of.
Ron, do you want some people in your picture there?
We could look at these large bulbs.
Right.
Sure, sure. And
Yeah, it is.
The Prairie Giant?
Professional, yeah.
Thank you.
Really nice. We want to get it ourselves.
Is that good? Right, yeah. Stones.
Elmer, your flies on that.
I'm trolling. Yeah, Rosalie, she would, yeah. But I was only 4 years old. Oh, yeah. Oh, is that right? Oh, yeah.
couldn't find it. Celebration.
Yeah.
And so we came back yesterday. And,
Oh, yeah, is that right?
she hopes she can find it.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be a family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, keep it out of trouble. Yes, exactly. More, right, yeah. People that would remember. So you didn't get a good deal for this guy. Yeah.
It's really just in the nick of time.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Right,
that
yeah.
group of
Certainly has.
people
Oh, yeah.
making acquaintances
I had relations here, and now they're all right across.
all over.
Well, even our own family. Just spread right across Canada.
Yeah. Is that right?
And she had been born on another cert, so their father she was illegally there.
Oh, I don't know. I think I'd like to have you guys sing it.
Another wife.
Like
And
this is
gone far. It would have been what?
Is there? Oh, for heaven's
So
sake.
anyway, he finds out this, and then we met one of the cousins, and he said, "Dad, they say I'm here with him."
Like even today, there was.
Ron?
Okay, you guys ready?
Okay.
Anytime.
Okay. Well, it's sure been a lovely weekend anyway. Look at this, where this whole school has been.
Yeah, I'm sure glad we came. I was under second thoughts, but remember how many times we used to drive down here and Dad
Right,
used to tell us about the old school and what was there, but
I don't remember too much, but I was only 4 years old when we left here, eh? But I don't know. But look at here. Look at where
it was good of, well, it was kind of a shock to me to find out that I was one of the last people born here.
Yeah.
So that made it kind of emotional for me today.
I guess this is where they must have walked in.
Yeah.
I remember Dad saying how that school teacher used to walk from St. Lazare up here. That's a good 15 miles.
Yeah. What was his name? Bluet?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
He used to walk.
But
morning, night.
they fired him or something, and he was gone for a year, and then they came back
Yeah.
because they wouldn't, the kids wouldn't learn from this female school teacher they had at the time, and so he came back. I remember Dad saying something about that, but you know what was really nice this weekend for me was all of our brothers were here, all 6 of us.
Yeah, that's right.
That doesn't happen too often.
No, that's right. There was 13 in our family. It's only Dad that's missing.
Yeah. It was good. But being spread right across Canada now, we had good representation here today. But from Wabush, where Corrine is, to
Vancouver.
Yeah.
So we're spread right across the country.
And I think it all started here, eh?
That's right. Anyway.
I can see why Mum would have got so broken up today. You know what amazed me was the 3/4-inch reinforcing rods they used here at that time, and that, you know.
Right, yeah, you wouldn't think in 1922 they'd have such things. Eh?
Or a round nail. Must have been a novelty. But the concrete people, I guess at that time, knew what they were doing too. Yeah. Yeah.
Could you hear? Oh, I can. Oh,
that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this great.
I think there was.
Yeah, nice you did, yeah. Very good. Well, look at this. Yeah. He said the old foundation probably was wrapped.
Probably wrapped between the foundation and the first plank or something.
I guess. I don't know. Easier, but I'm sure it's cement anyway. Bring a souvenir home. You can have one. You can get a piece and bring it home.
Like the Berlin Wall.
Well, yeah, or you make good paperweight.